Kalimera, Kalispera, whatever time you're watching, this is Mappa. And it's a wrap. The season is done. We know who won the league title, and now we know who's won the cup. And everyone lived happily ever after, unless you support Apoel, Anorthosi, Paralimni, Olympiacos. And who's the other team that went down? Agrida.
Oh, 12 people. You've got to count the 12 people that support Agridas as well. You know, you can't.
12.
All 12 of them.
I can't show Agrida. I can't do that. I can't do that. Anyway, that fine voice you heard right there was Thassos. And we have a special guest. Hello, we have a very special guest. This gentleman is a good friend, known him for years. He runs the Premier Injury website. He is an FPL guru, and he's got a shit ton of followers. So give him a follow at Dinnery. It's Ben Dinnery.
Thank you very much, Stel. Far too kind. I'm not sure that you hit the right point there on some of those, but I'll take them. I've been called it always.
Come on. And you're wearing a Newcastle United shirt, and as you know, John Carver is one of the greatest ever managers to have ever lived, according to John Carver. He had a bit of a spell in Cyprus, so there's a little bit of a link there.
Well, there's also Gets Bayer. Don't forget him.
Tamuri, a legend on Tyneside.
Well, yeah, you can keep him. You can keep him.
Crazy horse.
Yes.
Mate, there are other words that we can use to describe him, but we're not going to do that just yet. Because when I look at his national team selection, I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, yeah, exactly. You know. Anyway, so Ben is losing his Cypriot football virginity tonight. We're going to keep it nice and easy for him. We're not going to hurt him too much. And let's begin with my favorite part of the show, which is obviously an Omonia win because, goodness gracious me, Thassos, we won the cup. We won the cup.
You bloody did it.
Back to back.
Yeah, tell your
nunna,
everyone.
Did it this year. Tell your nunna, everyone, exactly.
Yeah.
We beat Aaaand by a goal to nil. Karim Ansarifad scored the winner with 5 minutes to go. It was a bit of a nervy game for both supporters. I actually thought Aaaand were, I wouldn't say they were favourites, but I thought they might nick it because they seemed more up for it. Well, their fans did anyway, but I guess the quality stood out. And as you can see, this is the winning goal. 4 passes, actually. 1, 2, 3 passes, sorry. And Roman Bezos was absolutely instrumental in the win when he came off the bench.
Yeah. It was, well, I mean, all three of them pretty much kind of finished the game off, didn't they? So Karim, obviously, Ansarifad has been on quite a bit of good form since coming back from the World Cup with Iran. Beforehand, that I remember you kind of egriseston, as we say in Cyprus.
Yeah.
You covered him in crap. But yeah, since he's come back from the World Cup, he's been really good. He's been worth it. Babulis, there you go. The bold representing the Boldies. He played his last game for Omonia there. Oh, no, he didn't play his last game, did he?
No, it was the second from last game.
Yeah, but 38 years old. He loves that cup, doesn't he? Is that 6 times he's won it as well? So 5?
5, yeah.
2 with Omonia, 3 only 2 with them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but yeah, he loves that cup, doesn't he? There's a few players there as well that are well deserved for some of those players. Some of those other players basically showed up for the last 3 or 4 games of the season. Would you agree with that?
They showed up for the cup. They showed up for the cup, and they showed up for the last 2 or 3 games. But listen, I'm happy with the win. It's covered over a lot of cracks. It's covered over a shit season. Even the president said it. And when the president says that it's been a terrible season, even though he's been like nothing to see here all year, it's been a good end to the year. But I think before we just discuss Omonia here, Aaaand had a lot of injuries going into this game. Their 3 best players were on the bench. They only played 20 minutes against Paralimni the week before. That was Chibola, that came from Aston Villa. Kevin Miralles, who had a spell at Everton, he was on the bench. He came on with like half an hour to go. And they looked devoid of ideas. I know they had a couple half chances at the beginning, but I think they're just more focused on the changes at the top, which we still don't know what's going on at that club.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I think it's I said it last week as well when we were talking about their press conferences. Avusti as a manager, he's Mr. Motivation. He's going to pump those players up. Whereas you had
he's the Harry Ben. He's the Harry Redknapp of Cyprus minus the brown envelopes.
Yeah. Let's go with that. But whereas this interim coach that Aaaand got in charge, he did, like during the press conference, he didn't sound like he knew what the hell was going on. No. It was every question that he was answering during the press conference, he kept mentioning Avusti and going, I don't know about Sofroni, or Sofroni's had a lot of preparation with his team, and rather than answering questions for his team and putting some belief into his players. Saying that, I have been like all season, Ben. That team has been massive. They're basically based out of a hospital. The team has been. The injury crisis has gone on all season. Miraz has been injured 3 or 4 times. Chibola was out for 4 months. Kacaniklik, who used to play for Liverpool and Fulham, he was...
he did his ACL.
Yeah, I think in February?
Yeah.
So, quite a lot of these players, good players as well.
Berahino was on the bench for them.
Yeah.
Remember Sadio Berahino, right? Ben, who's at West Brom? He was on the bench for Aaaand at the weekend, and last Wednesday, and he wasn't fully fit either.
But yeah, they made all these kind of fantastic signings, and they've just been injured the whole time. Like 4 or 5 key players, 3 of them haven't been able to put at least 3 of them in that first 11, if not on the bench. It's been a season for him, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's not been great.
The thing is, Ben, you and I, we used to do the Harley Street podcast, and we always used to speak about injuries, impact injuries, volume, etc., load. When you've got a team that only plays 1 game a week and they have so many injuries, what does that tell you about the actual training?
I think it's difficult, first and foremost. I certainly don't know the league. One thing that's quite often overlooked themselves is the players. So there's a responsibility on the players. So players coming into the league as well, there's always going to be that period of adaptation, first and foremost. And then if they're coming into a team and they tend to be high profile, high status, with that weight of expectation and the pressures that the managers are going to be on, you're then maybe forced into making decisions and risking players when ordinarily, they should maybe, be given that additional time to recover. So you never quite know what's going on, and I'm using the Premier League as an example here, as opposed to, maybe it may be slightly different in Cypriot football, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors involved. And like I say, that if these players are coming in, then maybe they are taking chances. Maybe they are being risked and pushed a little bit too hard. And of course, the emphasis on the player as well will be wanting to go out there and prove themselves. With Kevin Morales, he had a little bit of a checkered injury history in the past as well. So you have these players who are coming in and maybe, and I'm just saying maybe here because I don't know again, but maybe these players are maybe coming into the Cypriot League because those the upper echelons of European football, the big 5 leagues, are maybe looking at where they've been, looking at that injury history, looking at maybe that financial package that they would cost to try and to bring them in, and maybe those teams just aren't there anymore. So maybe you're getting a player who isn't quite 100%, and if you've got somebody that's coming in on the back of maybe used to playing maybe 40, 50, 60% of domestic fixtures or minutes, then to maybe expect more than that, and suddenly come in and ultimately start playing 80 and 90% of games is probably just a little bit unrealistic. And we've seen that a lot of times. I think one of the examples that I use in the Premier League is Thiago Alcantara, and they go, Jurgen Klopp signed a duff, he's injury prone, he's had this number of injuries. But if you look over his history, even going back to his time, probably certainly at Bayern Munich and maybe at Barcelona, you had a player that effectively played around about 50-55% of all domestic league merits. And that's continued all through his career. So he's not doing anything different now to what he was doing in Germany, to what he was doing in La Liga. It's just that, they're putting, it's reframed in a slightly different way.
Makes sense. And especially when you look at Aaaand, who've had, how many different coaches have they had this season? So they had Silas at the beginning, then they had the caretaker, then Janevski came in, and now they've got another caretaker. So technically they've had 4 different head coaches this season, or 4 head coaches this season. Yep. So I'm guessing that makes a difference in terms of the training and everything else that goes on at that club. But
yeah, I've actually just helped with a study with a guy called Callum Walsh, who was talking about effectively that changes of management, changes of a backroom staff, not just on team performance and availability, but effectively from top to bottom, from those at the highest level all the way down to the tea lady, and the impact that these changes can make. But obviously, from a team standpoint, in terms of implementation of new philosophies and setups and formational play, we always talk about this new manager bounce. But there's also statistically, and it's proven that, when you bring somebody new in and new backroom staff, you will see a rise in injury incident rates, and that will spike. And inherently, it could take quite a while for that to sort of level out, up to maybe 3 months. So if you've got this high turnover of coaches, again, you've got this vicious circle. And then also from a player's perspective, you're almost having to prove yourself again, maybe earn that contract, earn your place in the first team. And again, it goes back to, well, I mightn't be 100% fit. I might just be 80, 75, 80%. But, I've got to go out because my contract's coming to an end, or I need to try and secure my place in that first team, make that first impression. And like I say, it's a little bit of a vicious circle.
Excellent. See, couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah,
right,
I mean, I was going to add on to that. The kind of the changeover in coach in Cyprus doesn't necessarily mean a changeover in staff. The way it works is a bit strange. Kind of a manager comes into, or a head coach already comes into a system kind of behind him that's already been arranged by the club, by a director of football, or sporting director. And it kind of goes off that way. So I think we've seen it at a few clubs now where, so for instance, Garmiodisa have had 7 coaches this season, but 7 head coaches. Everybody else behind the scenes has been constant. So it's just the head coach has been different.
Well, it's like when Lennon got the Omonia job, they only allowed him to bring 1 member of staff, and that was Gary Parker. When McCarthy got the Aaaand job, he only brought in 1 person, which was, who's his number 2 that was always with him? That was with him at Wolves. I forget his name. Forget his name now. So they're only usually allowed to bring in an assistant because they don't want to completely restructure everything. But even that tells me that something is going bloody wrong at the club when they're still getting these injuries time and time again.
Yeah.
I think that the short answer would be it's not as easy just to pinpoint to one.
Yeah.
There are normally several influencing factors, and like I say, look, yes, I think load and training environment and the club are a lot of it, but also, it's often overlooked the players as well, and not only how they live their life while they're at the club, but what happens away from that, and everything, that rest and recovery and nutrition and all of these things come together. So yeah, it's I will advocate on behalf of the backroom staff when I think it's fair and reasonable. And like I say, I think players need to take a portion of that blame as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move over to the Group A games. And
do we not?
The title...
Do we not want to talk about the police reprisals for the? for the bus.
I'll tell you what. Let's do that after Omonia Ajax, because we don't really have much to talk about with that game.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So
fine.
I'll tell you what, let's do this one first. Let's get Aaaand and Aris out of the way. Aaaand won 4-3. Now the title was done and dusted last week. This could have been the defining game of the season for both clubs, or where the title went. But as it turns out, it was a formality. Addis made quite a few changes. Morgan Brown, our mate, former Leicester player, played there. And Upwell won by 4-3. A hat-trick for Kingsley Sarfo, who's been one of their best players the past couple of seasons. This is a goal from Stepinski. It did go in, even though you see the ball go through the net. Clearly, someone at the Gazibi didn't do the nets properly. And 1-0 Addis. There you go. I want to watch it again and again because it broke the net. There you go. Let's see one more time.
I mean, do we have?
There you go.
No, that's good. No, but the kind of the way this game went, kind of showed pretty much what's going on with both these teams. Really, Aris's first goal, frailties in Abo's defense over the playoffs came to the front, but also you've got Aris's rapid counter-attacking football. Morgan Brown was spoilt for choice basically for who was going to pass to. I mean, the penalty is a penalty. Sacha scoring is making a name for himself for whichever coach comes in next season. They need to include him in and around the first team. I think you can't ignore a player of his quality. Here's Safo's first goal. It's a great hit, especially from that deflection. He hits it on the volley first time, top corner. Hard to save those. It doesn't matter who's in goal, really, does it? Yeah. It's just you're gonna have trouble keeping that one out.
Do you know what, mate? I'm gonna say he's too good for the Cypriot League, but given his criminal record, he can't really play anywhere else.
No, yeah, exactly. So
he's stuck there, really.
Yeah, he's stuck. I mean, I've made it well known. He's a very good player. I don't like him, but he's a very good player. So it is what it is.
Anyway, let's move on.
Again, Aris score a goal from a corner. Abuel's defense not tracking runners from the corner. Awful defending again. I don't know what happened since the playoffs where their defense has gone it's been shocking. Our boys' defense has been terrible again. Safo's our fault for not tracking the run for the give and go. He just stops running and lets the forward player get the goal in. It's a great finish again. Another nice finish. Little dink.
Is that Sikorski?
Yep.
Oh, it's his final game for them. He's leaving.
Yeah. And then there's a little cheeky back heel from Safo to get his second goal. His third goal was a nice one as well, but compared to the first two, it's like, yeah, well done.
Yeah.
You got your hat trick, fine, kind of thing. It was, if this was final game of the season, if this was for the title, could you imagine the amount of heart attacks that would have happened during this game?
Yeah.
Because if Abuel had won that last game against Apollon, they would have needed to win this game by 2 goals.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
4-3 would have been there would have been a bit of a finish to this game, because it finished 3-3 in the first half, and then in the second half there was just the one more goal scored. But yeah, great end to the season as a game, but a lot of Apoel fans will be very disappointed, I think, with the way that the season kind of petered out at the end.
Well, yeah, of course. And they're looking for a new manager now because Milojevic, the club announced that Milojevic isn't going to have his contract renewed. The president Bedridis said that it was the manager's choice to leave, although reports suggest that he's got frustrated because there aren't going to be many funds available to the club in the summer. And that doesn't surprise me, given that they're, 34 million in debt, plus there was that 100 grand fine from UEFA, which is further adding to their problems. More stuff has come out today. They're looking for investors. As far as I'm aware, or as far as I've been told, they're planning a pre-season trip to Bulgaria because obviously that's one of the only places Savfok can go and travel and play in. And they're looking for, I'm dead serious, and they're looking for someone to sponsor their pre-season tour to Bulgaria. So they're trying their best, bless them. But yeah.
I mean, there's a few things to talk about there, isn't it? It's
a few.
yeah. You know, the president of the club. I don't know how he's organizing himself, because obviously we just talked about changing the finding a new coach, trying to bring in new players, trying to organize kind of how things are happening. But at the same time, they announced today that so Abuel Football Limited have announced that they have organized a committee, including board and non-board members, to find suitable investors to help the club out. So,
but they're not going to change the board of directors. No one's standing down.
No, they're not standing down, but they're not standing for re-election.
But Pedridis is.
Is he?
I think so. As far as I'm aware.
The whole point was that they made in the statement, they said that nobody was going to stand for re-election, just in case these new investors want to change the structure of the club.
I'm just leaving it as watch this space then. Watch
this
space.
Now, I will point to the fact that Apollon did this thing earlier in the season. You know, when Gideon said he was going to resign from the presidency following that night versus Garmiodissa. Well, they didn't do a U-turn. They couldn't find anyone.
Briefly, yeah.
They didn't find anyone. So for me, this smells like Pedridis is trying to prove he has to stay, because who else is going to run the club? No one else is going to agree to invest in this club, so I have to stay in charge. To be fair, would you want to invest in a loss-making business with negative equity of 30-odd million euros of declared, in capital letters, debt?
Ask Ben. Ask Ben. He knows more about finances than I do. Ben, this is a club that reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Was it 2012? Was it
long enough ago? Long enough ago.
It was a long time ago. And, this is a club that dominated Cyprus. I think they won, 7 titles in a row, something along those lines? 10, yeah? 10 in a row. And yet they were still able to sack managers and still be successful, like Chelsea, so to speak. But now they're really in the shit, mate. Really in the shit.
The thing is, this chairman, this president, is the same one that was in charge throughout that successful period as well. So they haven't changed. It's not like, Chelsea, for instance, they got rid of Abramovich and then it all went for this season. It's the same guy who's been in charge for this massive period of success, and also kind of what's happening to them at the moment. I
tell you what it is. It's a content creator's dream, the Cypriot League.
I'll tell you what. The thing is, right, the whole reason I'm like declared in capital letters is because they did a press conference to announce a new TV deal with a pay-per-view company. It was Abuel and Arthosis. And the whole time during the press conference, they were banging on about foreign investment and other clubs not declaring all their debt. So to me, that says the reason why you're so annoyed about that is because you're doing the same. So he's only showing 30-odd million euros of debt. What's he not showing? And I think any potential investor, that's the question he's asking. And, where's the receipts for debt that needs to be paid off for people you're not supposed to owe debt to? It's a really annoying time to be a fan of Apoel. It's really annoying
Which
time.
he is.
Yeah.
Which he is.
Yeah, which I revealed last week for the first time.
I didn't pick up on that.
No. Listen, right? The problem is as well is my position, at least with the organised fan groups, is unpopular. They think, or at least they are of the opinion that he's doing great. He's done great stuff for the club, and he's going to continue to do great stuff for the club. Now, there's conspiracy theories as to why that's the case. I'm not going to get involved in that crap because we're going to be here for another half an hour. But yeah, he's killing my club, and I want him out. He's running the club the way somebody would have run a club of that stature 10, 15 years ago.
You mean like Mike Ashley?
I was just going to say Big Mike. Yeah.
There you go. Well, the thing is, though, is that Mike would kind of at least balance books, right? Right?
Yeah. Look, I'll give him. No, I'm not going to give him any credit.
No, don't give him credit. Don't give him credit because he's going to use that credit to borrow more money to do something else.
He ran a tight ship.
Yeah, right. This guy throws money at a problem you shouldn't be throwing money at. And that's why they've ended up in the situation that they're in financially, to the point where, well, the club has got very good youth prospects, players on loan that they can utilize next season. But the money's not there to kind of kick the club on. But yeah.
They also received a 100 grand fine from UEFA for failing to pay players on time. There have been a few rumours that even the head coach he's left now, but that was there at the weekend. Apparently, I don't know how true this is, he's been helping pay some of the players' wages with his own pocket. And additionally, with that UEFA fine of 100 grand, that's the first step. If they do it again, they get a transfer embargo, and that would really F them. But I'd like to know, Ben, your thoughts on the highlights, if you were able to pay much attention, because we were kind of talking over it. Was there anything that you saw that impressed you?
I thought it was fairly entertaining. Of course, football's all about levels, isn't it? It's hard to judge, but just as a pure entertainment spectacle. And the guy who you referenced as being unable to play anywhere else in the world because of, what he's been doing away from football, perhaps. He looked a bit of a player. You can't deny. Took all 3 goals really well. Enjoyed it. It was a decent game. It certainly didn't put us off watching any more Cypriot football.
Well, I'll show you the next one. The next one, you're gonna enjoy this one as well, because this was very, very important, because both teams were in the hunt for the final European spot. It was FC Buffer facing Apollon, and FC Buffer, Ben, their old manager was Henning Berg. He got sacked a few months ago, and they brought in Michel Salgado, the former Real Madrid defender. He's their interim head coach. They needed to win against Apollon and hoped that Ike lost against Omonia. It ended up 2-1 to Buffer. A lot of controversy in this one, to be honest, as there always is in Cyprus. Thassos, do you want to talk us through this one? Because a certain Bruno Felipe scored his first goal in 17 games, which proved to be the winner. 17 games.
Yeah. I mean, so there was that penalty shout at the beginning there that wasn't given. What do you think of that one, Ben?
I think I would be very disappointed if that had been given against us. I would have certainly made the call if I was the attacking team, but there wasn't a great deal in it. Going back to the first game, actually, I thought that was a little bit of a soft penalty as well. I think that probably could have went either way, but that one probably just the right call.
Yeah. No, I agree. But obviously, that was one of the controversies he's involved in the game. Kind of that would have changed it. Yeah, so VAR is in use in Cyprus. I don't know if you knew this. You'll see some great use of the graphical representation of VAR later on. My bugbear with it.
Is it a Cypriot interpretation of VAR?
No.
Well, depending on who you ask.
You'll see it here. So they took this to VAR because you can see it's very close. So the referee gave it for offside. Sorry, the assistant ref gave it offside. Then they took it to VAR. So they did give it onside, but then when you look at the lines,
it did look offside. It looked like a correct call from the linesman.
Well, here it comes.
Let me pause it.
So there is a green line hidden in there. Can you see? There's a green dot on the attacking player's foot.
Wow.
So they use green. They use green.
Right, okay.
They use green on a football pitch. Anyway, so they use trigonometry. Well, I mean, it's probably the same way that they use it in England, but they use trigonometry to kind of figure out what's going on, and it's the computer system that says whether or not it's an onside or an offside call. Now, the problem that we have in Cyprus isn't necessarily the technology, but it's more the representation of it, because obviously cameras aren't super great. With it's very hard to kind of show kind of very marginal decisions like this. It's very hard to show that something, it's onside or it's offside. And then they put it in fucking green as well.
Listen, look, I'm all about the entertainment. I think the marginal calls, when they're that tight, I think I would always go in favour of the attacking team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my thinking, I think I've made my point a few times, is if it's that close, then you leave that to the decision that was made on the field. So it might be the attacking, it might be a defending, it might be a defending decision. But if it's that close, I think we described it as, how many what width of a hair does it does a marginal call mean? If the width of the hair is less than mine, it's an issue. But that's my thinking on it anyway.
Depending on the cameras, and look, those marginal calls anyway, they're not able to tell. I'm sure it's within around about 10 to 15 centimeters. Anyway, they're not accurate. So, like, when it's as tight as that, then I would go in favour of the attack. Although to the naked eye, it certainly looked offside. So
yeah,
I thought it was a good call by the linesman initially.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Apollon were a goal up, and then Buffalo scored twice to win the game. In terms of the game as a contest, Thassos, these guys played a 2-2 draw earlier on in the season in Buffalo, and it was Hamas's goal from practically the touchline. We kind of evaded everyone. It was his cross that evaded everyone.
Yeah,
and this had just as much drama, didn't it?
Yeah, it was in the 95th minute as well. It was something else. But yeah, so this Iliev here, he gets a second yellow for that. I don't think there's many arguments. I don't think you can argue. I don't know why he's arguing. But yeah, and that kind of changed the game a bit more. So kind of it was a more even-ended game, lots of attacking.
What a miss that was, by the way.
Yeah. Abdurrahim has been a very good player, so for him to miss that is very uncharacteristic of him. But yeah, and then obviously with the sending off, Bathos piled the players forward, get the equalising goal.
This was another one that was
offside.
I don't know why this was. They gave this. They gave this. They gave it. I don't understand how. What have they seen? What have they seen that we haven't?
Yeah. So I don't know how they again green lines, but like who is playing him on side?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The blue line is there for the blue line is the Apollon, right? Or is it the green line that's Apollon? Because if it's
the green line's Apollon, yeah.
Well, then he's offside.
He is. He is by at least half a yard, at least. But anyway, I think because they disallowed the first one and they thought, oh, we got that one wrong, so let's give them this one instead. It just doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't make any fucking sense. But anyway, it is what it is. And the winner was scored by Bruno. So basically 2 jinxes were broken, Thassos. The first jinx was Bruno scoring his first goal for the club since joining in January. And the second jinx, wait for it.
One from falling from one from behind.
First time this season that they've come from behind to win a game. First time, which, wow.
Yeah,
well done, Buffalo.
Yeah, it took him 36 games.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Apollon could have won it at the end. This was a very good interception from Ivicic. You know, we've been crapping on him since he joined, but that was a really good decision for him to come out there. And you know, it's a good finish from Bruno as well.
Yeah, Bruno Mars. Yeah.
But
Bruno Mars.
He then goes and ruins it.
Yep.
By what was it? He gets a second yellow card in like the 98th minute, 99th minute. What was it? Or is it more? Was it more?
97th, 98th? I don't know.
But
this one was onside. We can't argue. It was absolutely fine there. Goal was fine, but they were checking it for a handball. But I think he controlled it with his shoulder. But it was this one here where he's actually smashed into the midfielder.
And there's no need. There's no need either. And then you see him, he's like, I don't know.
He took out Spogliaric. He absolutely took him out.
I don't know.
Anyway.
So Ben, Bruno, Bathos spent money buying him from Omonia, and for a 6-figure sum as well. I'm not quite sure. Some people are saying 400 grand.
It's big for Cyprus, Ben. It's big for Cyprus.
It's big money for Cyprus. Basically, most players that are signed between clubs in Cyprus, it's normally for free. But they spent a lot of money on him, and because he showed some promise when he was playing for Omonia, even though it wasn't fantastic, he did show a lot of promise, a lot of trickery, a lot of, you know, don't want to say typical Brazilian player, but kind of like Brazilian playmaker.
Stat padding, Ben. Stat padding. He joined us in the summer. He had a decent couple of months, went off the wane, and then they sold him in January, and he's been shit for him. So that's all you need to know, really.
Yeah.
Stat padder.
Yeah, basically, I think he's one of the reasons Henning Berg lost his job. Because I think it was him that pushed for signing him in the first place. And since then, Henning Berg got sacked, and Salgado only brings him off the bench. And that's how he brought him off the bench. He scored his first goal, and then decided to ruin it all by getting sent off at the end of the game.
Russian blood.
He'll miss the first game of next season, I think.
Yep. Unless they decide to rescind it or whatever.
They won't.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, you know, Bathos have got a good Brazilian, top goal scorer, joint top goal scorer for the season with 18 goals. Is Gyro?
Gyro, yeah.
He's been really good for them this season. He's been injured the last 2 or 3 games. He came off the bench as well for him. Did very well. But yeah. Now, Salgado is only in charge of Bathos on a temporary basis because the way that Bathos work is they've got a lot of advisors in the background that are actually, you know, proper football people. So they've got They've got Salgado, they've got Mendieta as well.
Sits on the board, yeah.
Yeah, they've got quite a few proper football people involved in the board, and Salgado is only in charge on an interim basis till the end of the season, while they look for a new coach. Now, one of the new coaches, one of the people that they're looking at is Gets Bayer. Yeah, to the point where they're throwing a lot of money at him to get him to go there, and also looking to pay Cyprus FA enough compensation to take him away from the national team so he can join Baffle. The other coach that they're looking at apparently is the old Abuel coach.
He'd be a better fit.
Earlier.
He'd be a better fit. Yeah, Milojevic would. 100%. You don't agree?
I mean, yes and no. Yes and no.
Let me tell you something, right? Ketspire last won a league when? 2015? Was the last time he won the league as a coach?
Did he win it the second time with us?
I can't remember. Was
Anastasia were in the Champions League before?
No, when it was Apoel. When it was Apoel coach.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So Milojevic came from Red Star Belgrade, having won 2 or 3, or if not 4 titles in a row. Was it 2 titles in a row? He was the head coach. I can't remember. Because who was their coach before him? It was the guy that was at Inter Milan before. I forget the name of the midfielder. Anyway, so he's joined Apoel, and obviously he knew the Cypriot League, having managed Omonia before, right? But I think that the signings that were already there, I've listed signings, but when Milojevic got the job, those were the signings that were there. Like he inherited them, right? The only signings that he made in January were Ben and Makeda, and obviously they didn't work out for whatever reason. But I think the majority of that squad wasn't his. So if he goes to Buffalo, I think they'll give him that checkbook. And don't forget, as they're declared, they're 17 million in revenue. They should have some money to spend in.
I mean, yeah, but they've got a fairly cheap option as well that they can go with, who also knows the league very well, which is one of the things that the press secretary said was important. They've got Busaididi.
Yeah,
he's free. He's free. He's free. He's not going to ask for as much as Milojevic will. And you've seen what he can do with the kind of players that he would like at a club, especially with a low budget. So imagine if you had like a good budget and a club that signed players that he wanted them to sign.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly touch on Apollon before we go to the next one, because I think Ben is going to have to bounce after the next game. So let's touch on Apollon very, very quickly. They released how many players yesterday?
6.
Six.
Dabo, Alisami, Radi, Jovanovic, Mavrias, and Peixoto.
Okay. And out of all those players, none of them were really regular. I think the closest one was Mavrias, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Jovanovic has been injured for 6 months now. He had a really big injury.
Radi fell out with the club.
Yeah, Radi fell out with the club. And Alisami as well got injured. Which is the reason why they were playing left back at right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dabo was hardly getting games this season, but he was pretty pivotal last season, scored quite some important goals. But anyway, let's watch this space with Apollon, because it could be the end of VAR division as well, but we're not going to go into that. We'll wait for that to happen, because if VAR division ends, I don't know what we're going to do with this podcast.
No, I know, right? We'll lose half an hour's worth of content every week.
Anyway, right, let's move on to the next game. So, Buffalo's win meant that Ajax had to beat Omonia, and they did. They beat us by 2-0. And in all fairness, mate, this seemed like a testimonial game for us. We made a few changes, although Zaha will be pissed off. In fact, I know Zaha's pissed off they didn't score this one. He should have done a lot better, in all fairness. 2 goals that we conceded were from set pieces, but I think we played pretty well in the first half. But Ajax showed how good they are this season. They've had a troubled few months. In fact, even before they lost to West Ham, their form dipped a lot, especially this goalkeeper, Piric. But it seems to be more of the same from Ajax in terms of their attacking tactics, get the ball out wide, pop it in the box, hope that Lopez or Triskovsky will get in the end of it. No Farage either, which, you know, his injury could be the end of him for Ajax. But yeah, Thassos,
this
I don't know
thing
what to
here,
say.
this is why Pirich is having a nightmare. Like, what?
Yeah.
What was that about?
And I think that's one of the reasons why Shradi was released.
But yeah, the kind of Ajax form, like you said, is again, like, attacking wise, they haven't had that much of a problem attacking wise. It's been the defending, and I think as a lot of it. This was a penalty, by the way.
Yep.
This was a penalty. Watch this. Boop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that wasn't given.
Although, but hold on, I would. So yes, he's in the box. His arm's actually outside the box, though.
Yeah, but I don't think they gave it as a free kick.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not sure why they didn't give that. But yeah, that's kind of one of the main reasons Ajax form has dipped a lot. Is for some reason Pirich's form, kind of one of the big things in the Europa League, especially in the group stages, was Pirich. You know, they had Turkish fans. I can't remember which team in Turkey was in their group. Oh yeah, Fenerbahce. Yeah. So Fenerbahce fans were actually talking about how good he was in goal for Ajax all the way through the group stages. And you know, when you're getting when it's a player of the Cypriot team is getting compliments from a Turkish fan base, you know that you know, doing
he's
a
done
really good
right.
job. But I think there was like one game. It was like a nondescript game, you know, that was worth nothing really. And then he made an error in that game against Karmiotissa. And then since then, he's had like 2 or 3 of these errors creep into his game, and that has made the defense in front of him a bit more nervous. So kind of every time the opposing team was attacking, you know, if they had somebody who could score, you know, Ammonia really don't have very prolific strikers. But if you had a prolific striker on the end of anything, you know, it'd be a goal. It'd be a goal, which is, you know. But even then, with the form they've been on since January, it's testament to the form they were on before January that Ajax have still managed to get into Europe. Yeah, that's a disappointing goal to let in.
Well, both the goals came from set pieces. Both the goals the goalkeeper should have done a lot better, but I'm not going to shit on him because, you know, he's our third choice keeper. No, he hasn't played. He's third choice keeper, but
he's our first. That's the first choice Cypriot keeper. Ben.
Yeah. First choice Cypriot keeper, third choice at his club. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was really disappointed.
Yes, I think that. Look, I like him as a person. I'm not gonna say anything. I don't want to piss him off. It's not fair.
Do you know what that comes to him quick? That comes to him very quick.
He should be dealing with it though, man. He should be dealing with it. I think he knows it. He knows it.
Yeah.
At that level, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but there wasn't really much else to go on about this game. I think for me as an Omonia fan, it was nice to see some of the changes that were made, especially in the last 20 minutes, half an hour. We had 3 or 4 substitutions, 3 of them being academy players. This one here, Venizelos, that started. He's been in and out of the squad. He was on loan away last season at Bayek, and he came back, and the coaches trusted him. He gave an opportunity last week at centre mid. He did well. He played at centre back at the weekend. He did well there. So it's looking good. The only thing is one of our academy players, he's leaving. He's going to Harvard to study. So, yeah.
Yeah, he got a scholarship, didn't he? Yeah.
I don't blame him. To be honest, you know. But it's a good thing. But yeah, again, nothing really to report to this game. I can't actually come up with anything. And there was a goal that Bezos scored, which was absolute beauty. Like this one here, which was disallowed because when the ball came to Ansari Fad, who played it back to him, his heel was offside. He's offside there.
Yeah.
So he receives the ball and yeah. He's a great finisher.
Unlucky. Took it really well.
Yeah, Bezos has been shit all season. Last 2 games have been brilliant.
Yeah, he's a good player when he wants to be.
Jekyll and Hyde player, as we call him. Jekyll and Hyde, but yeah. Anyway, so that was that. There isn't really anything else to say about Omonia apart from the issue. I say issue. Well, I'm guessing it used to be an issue, but it looks like the president and the association have actually patched things up now, and they've now struck an agreement which is going to go to a vote. And if they're happy with it, then it looks like he might have the club for 50 odd years, and he might actually get control of the training ground, and he might actually build a new stadium. All these promises or all these assumptions. I'm not getting excited about it until it's all done and dusted. Is there anything else you need me to add for this, Thassos? Because
no, it's just I could getting rid of a load of players. Sanjuro, Rosales, Cristoforu, Grobov, and Nikolic.
There's 5 players I released.
Yeah, Nikolic is a disappointing one because he's been, top goal scorer in like 5 different seasons in 3 different leagues. He showed up in January and he scored once, so that's very disappointing. Also heading out is Olatunji. So he's been on loan at Slovan Liberec since January, and they've confirmed that they're exercising the option to buy him. So he scored 8 goals in 18 games for them. Transfermarkt says he's worth 300 grand, and the deal agreed between the 2 clubs is reported to be 500k, and there's also a sell-on fee for Ajax there as well. So, yeah, that's that.
Well, look, I know Ben's going to have to bounce in a second, Ben, but there's one more thing. Thassos, think of one story that we've got that you could tell Ben about, just so they can leave with a smile on his face, because there's a lot of stuff that's happened. There's a lot of stuff that's happened. Yeah. There's a lot that's happened in the past week, whether it be match fixing rumors or whether it be all that. Just pick one of the many. Pick one.
Do we want to do the Abuel injuries thing? Because
yes.
So
let's do something that he can relate to. Come on.
So basically, we've had 7. Abuel have had 7 separate injuries that have required surgical intervention this season. So I've done a little table in the notes. I've listed the player and the injury that's requiring surgery. I don't know. Maybe you might see something in there that says, hold on, what's going on here? So we've got Christos Wheeler. He's a defender. He's got knee ligament. He had a knee ligament problem. Matthias Susic is also a defender. He's got a meniscus injury. Lucas Villafañez has had 2 surgical interventions, one for a shoulder injury and another one that's just listed as muscle. He's a playmaker for Abuel. We've got a winger called Thassos Donis. He's had an ankle injury. We've got Elfar Duben, which is one of Milojevic's signings. Again, he's an attacking midfielder, kind of winger type player, and he's done his Achilles tendon in. And then we've got Marquinhos, which I'll do a little bit more of a breakdown on him later. But Marquinhos has got an abdominal adductor problem. Okay. So, is there anything there that kind of stands out?
I mean, difficult. Like I say, there always needs to be context in and around every injury. I think first and foremost, again, what people tend to not consider is the mechanism of injury. Football is a contact sport. You will get injuries at some point just because of the nature of the game, the dynamic, explosive, quick changes of movements. That's inherent, where we may say high risk in terms of muscle injuries, hamstrings, adductors, kicking mechanisms and so on and so forth. So it's, to understand how those injuries occurred will help give a better understanding of where maybe you need to be looking, or I'm not going to say, to portion a sense of blame, but certainly that's your starting point. Because like I say, sometimes it's just unfortunate, unlucky. The tackle wasn't an opponent, wasn't an awkward fall. I think you mentioned a shoulder problem in there as well. Also, you need to contextualize with regards to when these injuries may have occurred. If you're talking about maybe some of these injuries which have carried over from pre-season, certainly like long term, it may be that, that knee ligament or the meniscus one that you did mention, then statistically and scientifically, it's proven that, the more sessions that you miss during that foundational phase of training, the higher the risk that you have of picking up an injury during the course of the season. Secondly, if you're playing within the season and depending upon your status within the team, and I go back to a point that I raised initially at the head of the show, you're then playing catch up, and maybe if you're one of those high profile players, you're maybe, it's a very time crunched environment. The second you're injured, the stopwatch is ticking. Those at the head of the club, the coaches, the player themselves, everybody wants to know, when am I going to be back on the pitch? And very rarely are you afforded the opportunity to go through a fully comprehensive recovery and rehab program and then be out of that 100% ready to, re-engage in competitive football. It just doesn't really happen. So, there's a lot of chances and risks taken along the way, and dependent upon the club, the size of the squad, the depth, the importance of the fixtures, where you are in the league, then that will determine on, whether you take a chance on a player and whether you're not. And, it goes back to, I always say that, the Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, they always had this what seemed to be this injury list that just kept on growing and growing with the same players. The Abu Dhabis, the Jack Wilshers, the Aaron Ramsey, all of those players were, firm fixtures on that injury team. But it was because they were, they were constantly sort of fighting to try and force their way back into the team. And maybe on occasion, the decisions were, maybe not the right ones. Quite often these are player led. And yes, coaches, backroom staff, sports science, physiotherapists, they will have the discussions around, do I think you're ready to play? Probably not. Maybe you've got an 80-20% chance of going out, but it's a big game and we need to win. What do you think? Are you prepared to put your body on the line and go out there? And like I say, sometimes it works out, sometimes you come through, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's difficult. I had a conversation with the head of medical at Wolves. I think it was beginning of last season. And, inherently Wolves are one of those teams that you would look at and go, overall, generally, they have an excellent injury record. They were always there or thereabouts in terms of, suffering the fewest injuries, suffering, losing the least amount of days return to play. And there was one season where they went through and I think when they came up into the Premier League, they hadn't suffered a hamstring injury, either competitive or non-competitive play, for almost 2 years. Unheard of. They went into the third season or the fourth season. I think they suffered something like 3 ACL injuries, all within the space of a couple of months. Now, all of a sudden, your injury burden, your load is, starts, their season-ending injuries. They're as a yardstick, they're a 9-month injury. So all of a sudden, you've lost, you lose 3 players to long-term injuries, and there's 27 months, roughly at best. There's almost 2.5 years worth of injuries you've lost in the space of what could be a matter of weeks. So you always need to contextualize. The headliners are what's always going to grab the attention, but you do need to scratch beneath the surface to understand, the mechanism and what's going on to try and maybe interpret whether there's been at fault, or, whether you just hold your hands up and just say, well, look, this is part and parcel of playing football, competitive football. You've got to pick up injuries, and yes, we might have had a glut of problems, but that's just the way it is.
Okay, so if we go back to, you mentioned Thiago Alcantara earlier, so Thassos Donis, which is one of the players I mentioned as one of the players that needed surgery on an injury. He has, I think, I did the calculation. So since the 2014-15 season, he's been out a total of 532 days on injuries. That's according to Transfermarkt. So it's not exactly an accurate portrayal of the full injury length or anything like that. But that's near enough a year and a half in something like eight and something years there. Now, wouldn't that be something that will get picked up in, say, when they do the fitness tests and the medical exams prior to signing a player?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a common misconception that players who go for a medical with a club, and the assumption is you either pass or fail a medical. That's certainly not the case. What will happen is, and it depends again on clubs, the player, on where in the transfer window this sign is going to be done in terms of where that deadline is. But in the ideal world, transfer targets will be identified well ahead of time, and you will have the opportunity to go through a battery of tests, and you will look at player history in terms of availability and injuries. And then from those tests, evaluations and assessments, club doctors, backroom staff will make a list of recommendations. And based on that, those who are maybe, financing the move will then look at that and base a business decision around this particular player. So there's factors that are always come into play. And yes, you look at that injury history, you will then maybe weigh that up against the cost of what it might, be in terms of a transfer fee, in terms of wages, in terms of length of contract. And then you build, that business need around that, and on that history, you factor in, well, if we've only had a player who maybe is only available maybe 1 in every 2 games, can we afford to carry a player on X amount for X number of seasons if, the assumption is we're only going to have him every other game? So there are factors, and there are always going to be, maybe anomalies within injury histories. But like I say, it's not always the case. I've spoke to members of medical teams, and Johnny Wilson was a prime one. He's received a call at, I think, 8 o'clock at night, on transfer deadline day. Get yourself down to the club. We want this player. Get it over the line. Make sure there's nothing, obvious, too bad. Get it signed off, and we'll get him on the books. Realistically, what are you going to get done in a a very short time? In a handful of hours. And even then, it's certainly a lot easier these days in terms of maybe tracking players, but players won't necessarily walk around with their medical notes. If you've got a bit of a checkered past, a bit of a history, even now teams will do a quick Google search. They will say, oh well, you've only you've only played 20 games last season. You missed 18. Why? What happened? I don't know. Oh yeah, it was hamstring. And he met. How was it? That's fine.
So this is where I was. I was going to lead you to it, but you kind of walked to where I wanted you to go. So Marquinhos, which is one of the players I mentioned, the one with the abdominal adductor problem, he posted on Instagram following is either the last game or somewhere around there, and I'll just read off what he wrote. Well, my friends, as you all know, I have had surgery just now, and I came to explain. I've been living with this pain for 3 years, but now as I came from Brazil with many games played, 60, and I feel too much in the last few games, having to play with sacrifice and injections, because I really wanted to help win the title together with my teammates. We couldn't, but I promise that next season I'll come back much stronger to help. Thanks for all the messages, abueladas, and my friends who cared. The surgery went well, thanks to God. Now it's time to rest next to my family and come back stronger. Now, the main thing there is that I've been living with this pain for 3 years. So, is that not something that would be like red flag kind of a red flag issue there?
Look, I think if you ask the majority of footballers, particularly say, coming to the end of a season, how are you functioning in terms of your status, in terms of how physically well do you feel? The majority of players will come out and say, I'm not great. I'm being patched up. I look at my hometown club, Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes, I would probably say for the last 2 months, managing an ongoing ankle injury, clearly not fit, touted to maybe have ankle surgery. Joe Linton, the same, adductor issue. You can look at Arsenal. Emile Smith-Rowe is a great example. He had a surgical intervention. Again, it was an adductor stroke groin problem, more around the development and playing at such a young age. But he pinpoints the problems going back to almost 4 years. So, decisions and discussions around how you're going to manage the problem. And, there's a point where, you can look at that conservatively to get through. And again, the motivations around maybe why surgery isn't always the best option. If we look at Armel Bella-Kotchap for Southampton, again, is another example. He dislocated his shoulder, I think was in and around October time. Should have had surgery. In fact, suffered a relapse or a subluxation further on in the season. But he wanted to go to the World Cup with Germany. So there's other factors to come into play which influence that decision. So it's not uncommon, like I say, that players will be playing maybe not in and around that 80 to 90%. It's about whether they can manage that pain, whether they're still able to perform, maybe not at optimum levels on a consistent basis, but if you can manage, and particularly as you touched on at the head of the show, if the majority of Cypriot football games are week to week, where you have that 7-day break, it could be that players are, you play your game and then you're having 2 to 3 days away from the training pitches, allowed to rest and recover, and then you're back in and focusing on the game. And if that's enough and you're able to get through the game and you're still able to perform, then really, and you're needed within the team, why take that maybe risk or remove that player from the team for potentially several weeks to months, when, like I say, you can have a player who can, like I say, he might be 100%, but the guy is still able to perform at 90%, and his 90% is, a hell of a lot better than the majority of other players that we may have in our team.
Yeah, the thing is, mate, to be honest, there's something that we haven't actually even really mentioned too much in this pod, and I think the playing surfaces have a huge impact as well, because we've seen this season, in fact, I know the last couple of seasons, we've seen players have ACLs because they've been wearing blades and they've been turning on a slippery surface, and they've done their ACLs, and we've seen the pitches either overwatered or underwatered, or they're too dry. Even the training pitches that some teams, do their training sessions on, they're abysmal. So I'm guessing that it all adds up.
Yeah, and of course, and again, I mean, even just the variation between different pitches from week to week. If there's, within the Premier League, I think, the majority of places will probably have, I don't recall, but there are recommendations and levels in terms of firmness and hardness recommended by the Royal Institute of lawns and football pitches, of how these should be prepared and set up in the right mix between the sand and the soil. So you have that level of consistency from training pitches to stadium pitches. But of course, all of that comes at a cost. That comes with resource. If you don't have that infrastructure in place, then it's going to be difficult. You see high increased risk for ACL injuries when players go from playing on grass pitches, for example, to maybe 4G. There's a period where if you're playing on 4G all of the time, or you're playing on grass all of the time, I think the rates are, remain fairly sort of steady. You know, there are no real sort of massive differences. But once you're moving from one to the other, and you're playing maybe one-off games, and that can be the same for different surfaces. You know, then that risk, because it's it's just a different, the way your body's attuned to that turning, and you know, it doesn't take a lot when you're talking about the, you know, the dynamic, intensive nature of the game. You know, there's some of the forces which are being put through the body. You know, it's easy to see why that you're picking up serious injuries if, you know, some of those sort of fundamental things aren't in place consistently across the board.
Well, Ben, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your input. It's been great having you on the show. I know you could only stay for half an hour. You've done an hour and 10 minutes, which is incredible, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. You've had a long season, especially with the FPL updates, and you've been working your ass off. Even throughout the World Cup, you were doing it. But one more thing before I let you go. How many points did you get overall in total this season?
Do you know what, mate? I have no idea. People think it's a cop-out, but for the fact that I do live my life, and my job is in and around fantasy football and FPL, I play the game in a different way. And I have, so as an example, I did not own Haaland. I refused to own Haaland because 80% of people or managers owned Haaland. Yeah. So all of my players were, I tried to get them under 12% ownership. And once it went over 12%, I got rid of them. I would have, I've had set and forget captains. So I had a full season where I just put the armband on one player and just left it. Did not use me chips, you know, like, so I just space it up just to look. Am I ever going to win FPL? Absolutely not. Do I like to have a little bit fun in the mini leagues? Of course I do. Do I want to do things a little bit different? Yes, because that's what, you know, that's what I enjoy. Trying to maybe succeed with, you know, in a different way. And for me, success, look, if I can get anywhere near the top 10%, you know, using my very differential team, then I think that's a massive achievement. So
absolutely. Joe, I'll be looking at my scores because I didn't really check my overall. I came to 2,278, which weren't bad considering that I've spent a lot of time on it this season. But my main ambition was not to win my private league. No. It was to end up on top of Rodri Giggs, which is what I did, by over 500 points. So I'm happy. He got the wooden spoon again, second year running. I think he's going to do the 3 on the bounce next season. But Ben, thank you so much for your time, man.
Pleasure, really guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And next time we have you on, I'm sure there'll be more interesting things to talk about. And as you said, this is a content dream for us. We can go on for like 2-3 hours on this pod. It's ridiculous. But thank you so much, bro. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate the invite. Take care, guys. Thanks
Anytime,
a lot.
Mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
you,
Ben. Thanks.
Cheers,
mate.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Ben Dinnery. What a legend. What a legend. And he's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to the injuries and the recovery rate and everything. And I think it was a perfect pod to have him on, especially the injuries that you mentioned with Aaaand. I actually thought it would have had a lot to do with, obviously, Milojevic's training sessions that probably had an effect on him. But obviously, there's been a longer term problem at the club. Right. Shall we show the Group B highlights before we finish off with a few other little things here and there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Only a minute and a half of this one. Salamina beat Olympiacos by 3-2. Olympiacos are already down. At the end of the game, I saw a Instagram post by Eric Botiak calling it the last dance or something like that. So I don't know whether that's it for him in terms of his football career or whether that's it for him and Salamina. Salamina have signed more people to contracts, but there might be a few other changes when it comes to players staying or leaving. I'm not sure if Dolmes is going to be there next season. We know that Doragaray is going to stay there because he signed a new deal. But Botiak will probably be that's it for him. I've heard rumours that he's going to go to Omonia Koscielnia, which will be interesting because he'll be teaming up with Jordi Gomez again. Flory, I've heard again, might even go to Koscielnia. So we never know. But it was an entertaining game. But Yeah, and as for the final relegation games, Paralimni had to beat Anorthosi and hope that Doxa dropped points. They lost 1-0, and Doxa got a last-minute penalty to get an equaliser and get a point against Doxa, against Aaaand to keep them up. So, yeah, drama there, handball, another last-minute penalty. Surprise, surprise. Don't know whether that was intentional or not, but I'm not going to... Garavida there was crying his eyes out because he kind of knew that what was going to happen. It was a good penalty from Benny, though, to be honest. Yeah. Really composed. I've done a lot of talking for this one, so I'll leave the rest with you, mate.
No, man. No, man. There was I've got like a load of news items lined up for all the teams anyway, so I kind of just let you go off on one. But yeah, Paralimni kind of Aaaand did the job for Paralimni, but the Paralimni players only decided to show up from the 80th minute onwards, except for like a penalty shout in like the 23rd minute or something like that. A disappointing end to the season for them because they really could have done something and just they didn't have the vida in them to try and stay up until the last 10 minutes, and then by then you're chasing the game, you're already 1-0 down. But yeah,
do you know what, mate? To be honest, right? The Olympiacos game for Doxa kind of made me lose interest in the relegation race, because if you'd have told me that it was going to go down to the final day where either one of Doxa or Paralimni were going to go down, I'd be like, right, this is interesting. But then what happened with the Olympiacos game? 11 minutes into added time, they scored a winner from the spot. Obviously, the whole red warning thing. I lost interest in it, and it's sad because you knew what was going to happen. Now, look, I've got nothing against either club. I love, I've got friends at Paralimni. I've got a friend at Doxa. I can't, I'm not here to choose sides, but I just think Paralimni were hard done by, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of decisions in Paralimni's games have gone against them as well. There's a couple of points that we can point out during the season where could have been turning points, which is why there's some people claiming that Garavidas has fixed it for Doxa to stay up. I'm not going to get involved in that because I don't believe in conspiracy theories. What I will say is, talking about the match fixing, Olympiacos are being looked at for 2 games. 2 out of 4 games that have been investigated this season. 2 of them have involved Olympiacos. So that is the fine that we talked about previously, and a 3-point deduction if they're found guilty of that. So it's not a very good start for Olympiacos, next season in the 2nd division. It's going to be a difficult one. But yeah, going to roll through the news. So we already spoke about Nel Salamina signing loads of players on. We've had Carlitos, Miguelito, Doregaray, Gumuris, Melissas, Leuco, and Ofori have signed new 1-year deals. 2 players that won't be there next season are Adonis and Malekidis for sure, because they were on loan. Adonis is going back to Aaaand. Malekidis is going back to Apollon. Speaking of Aaaand, they're also going to have Ilia back from Aboel.
Yes.
Aboel cannot afford to pay Aaaand the transfer fee for Ilia. Which, yeah, so Aaaand are going to, if they just have those 2 players with Bambos wheeling and dealing.
1 minute. Who signed Ilia for Aboel? Who was the coach at the time? Was it Sofroni?
I think so.
And Omonia looking for a striker.
Well, let's see, because Bambo, the manager at Aaaand, he's a wheeler, a dealer and a half. He's the Harry Redknapp of Cyprus football.
Yeah.
I mean, look what he did with Aaaand, with Portuguese and Cape Verdean players nobody had heard of before. So
yeah, true.
Yeah,
True.
and like Harry Redknapp, he always puts something in the contract for himself. Allegedly.
I'm not saying. Yeah. We'll leave it at that. So you did well. A good recovery. He fumbled it, but he caught it.
So back to Salamina. They announced that Magis Papa Ioannou has gone. Everybody's known that for like 6 weeks now, that he was going to Apollon. But they did announce it on social media and kind of made a mistake.
This one here? This one
prayer
right
hands.
here?
Prayer hands. Prayer hands. Prayer hands. Prayer hands. I mean, that's not even how you do the emoji, is it? You just... Oh my God, what is that?
This is painful. You did this deliberately, didn't you? Because you knew, right? You knew that I hurt your feelings the other week about the stadium and the lines and all that. So you're getting me back with the social media. I see what you're doing. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. Now, exactly. Send Stel more social media fails. Anyway, right.
Although you did say that there might not be some next season. Is that Garmiodissa you said that they
Garmiodissa, the social media manager, the marketing manager for Garmiodissa announced that he will be leaving Garmiodissa. So there will be a new person doing the social media for Garmiodissa. Now that means that maybe, I mean, they might hire someone else who also likes to use shortcuts for their work, but maybe we might have less issues, let's say. Now,
Nikos Gatsas is going to say, "Where have all my mentions gone?"
Yeah. He's gonna miss on those.
Is he the bioengineer you said?
Yeah, biomedical engineer. Yeah.
He was probably thinking, was I hallucinating when I saw these mentions and all these ads? Was I on the drugs that I'm using?
Well, I mean, saying that, they're talking about Gatsas moving on to another club anyway, so maybe that social media manager will do the same stuff. Right. God. So, more news today. A lot of news I'm talking about dropped today, which is why I had a lot of problem doing the notes. Salamina have announced that Christodoulou is the new coach. So, welcome to Dulu Ball. Dulu Ball. Thought you might enjoy that. Yeah. Now, Olympiacos. Obviously, we talked about them being investigated. Now, we also know that they're about to lose a load of their players following relegation because a lot of their players were on loan because of the situation that the club found itself in, especially in January. So that means Esselink, Koroma, Sloga, Aseus, Psychas, Yagoumagis, and Derbyshire are all going back to their parent clubs.
Okay.
And I think there's a few contracts that are going to be up, including Joel's. I think Joel is going to be out of contract as well. So any clubs looking for a goalkeeper, get him now. Get him now. But yeah, if there's anything good to come of Olympiacos being relegated and all the red envelope stuff, is that after today, I don't have to talk about Dornaridis anymore.
Until
no, that's it. Because ποτέ ξανά ανάμειξη με το ποδόσφαιρο στην Κύπρο. Έκανα το μοιραίο λάθος και αναμένω τα κέρδη από το μάθημα. Never surrender. So basically, I never be involved again in football in Cyprus. I made the worst mistake, and I am waiting to learn my lesson.
Oh, do you know what? I'm sorry. Listen, no. See, I'm not having this, right? Because if it wasn't for Cypriot football, he wouldn't have the profile that he's got, right? And he wouldn't be writing his stupid book. Okay, listen, I'm not trying to be funny. I went into a bookshop in Cyprus to get some things for my kid, right? In February, some Greek books, and I saw his book on the shelf, right? And it was in a section which was with books for idiots. In fact, next to that book, there was another book which was like something for dummies, right? And I looked on the floor, and there's a fucking pile of his books there. No one's buying his books, right? Unless he's giving them away to the netcast guys. I don't fucking know. Okay, don't talk to me that. Listen, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't buy his shit. Okay, I don't buy his shit, and I don't buy this loving. Okay, I really don't understand. Okay, maybe he is a nice guy. I don't know, but for me, he's just he's a what's the word? He's a parody. That's what he is. He's a parody.
Listen, I'm not bouncing back because I agree with you completely.
That's the second time I've lost it today.
All right.
Actually, third if you include the traffic.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if anything else comes up while I go through this. So, we weren't able to discuss that Aris put on a show at the Alphamera Stadium. So let's stretch out our congratulations again. They won the title. Well done, golf club.
Of course, absolutely. And by the way, before you move on, for the benefit of those listening and viewing, myself and the head of social media, Aris, we had a conversation with a journalist from World Soccer Magazine, Alec Macquarie. Give him a big shout here because Alec is actually writing a piece on Aris. He was in Cyprus for the game against Omonia. I've seen bits of the article. He hasn't finished it yet, but I've seen bits of it. He's mentioned us. It's in the pod.
Hey.
And he's mentioned, obviously, his experience watching Aris and even saw the Omonia fans celebrating the Aris penalty. There's other little bits that he's going to add to it. And I'm looking forward to it because I don't know if I probably haven't told you this, Thassos, but I was telling my dad earlier. Whenever we used to go to Cyprus when I was a kid as a family, right? I was obviously 9, 10 years old. My dad always say to me, yeah, I'll go to the WH Smiths and buy a magazine. And the only magazine I'd get is World Soccer Magazine because Keir Radnage is my favorite ever writer. Obviously, Gavin Hamilton, as the years went on, he's another one. So for World Soccer Magazine to ask for our assistance for an article about a Cypriot team, I've completed life. Like, I've completed life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm on cloud 9. I'm on cloud 9, man.
You've had a sine wave of a podcast, haven't you?
Bro, honestly, like, listen, doing pods, don't get me wrong, it's great, don't get me wrong. But as you know, you do more planning than I do for this pod, but it can be so draining. And I've been doing this for 12 years, okay? 12 years of highs and lows. And I'm talking about, not knowing whether I want to do this anymore, doing late podcasts or early podcasts, or even having to improvise. I've done podcasts in my car, like recorded audio. I'm not even lying. I've had to pull over because someone has called me to say, oh, look, I've got 10 minutes free. Can you do this? I've done it. So for us, this isn't just for me, but for us as a pod to have our name in that bloody magazine, right? I don't mean to say bloody magazine, you know what I mean? But it's just my excitement here. Yeah. To be in that magazine of such stature, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. Again, thank you to Alec for reaching out because, and obviously thank you to everyone that tunes in and follows on Twitter because all of their retweets has obviously got the attention of Alec and obviously other people, and we're growing and growing. And thus, I'm not going to mention the names that we've got lined up on this pod here, but the ones we've got lined up between now and the end of next week. As Nelly said, batter up. Sorry, you were saying. Sorry.
Beautiful.
Sorry.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Absolutely amazing stuff. I mean, I need to say as well, I missed out on going to the Aris celebrations because the marketing manager invited me because I went to go watch our boy lose against Apollon. So yeah.
There'll be plenty of opportunities. I'm telling you, there'll be plenty of opportunities.
Yeah. But anyway, they did the show. They did a big old show. It was a grand old event. They had Sagirova. I've seen Sagirova play live at the Cypriot.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
15 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, there were people behind us yelling, screaming, "Sagi Gizmo, já deve estar nesse Gizmo." You want to translate that? I'll translate that while you try and catch your breath. Sagi, touch me, and if you can't reach, spit on me. Oh, I love it. But yes, they also had some other people I've never heard of because obviously I'm not in that juicy 18 to 34 demographic anymore. You might know them, Stel. They had Oceana, Danzel, and Eva Simmons. Now, again, me and you, it's not, you know, they don't make pop culture for us anymore. We're too old now. So you know, these properly big names for the young people out there. One of the, and then we go back a generation before us. They also had a Queen tribute act.
Oh,
so they probably played, you know, Show Must Go On, We Are the Champions.
We Are the Champions.
You know,
Standard.
But all that business, yeah.
Well, let me get their Instagram up because they've got the photographs, haven't they?
Yeah.
Look at Vanna. Vanna signed a new deal. Says there till 2026.
That was one of the other ones I had written on here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Until 20. No, it's fine. It's fine.
God, this is them celebrating at the. This is the Alfa Mega Arena, isn't it?
Yeah. There you go. There's the marching band, the drummers. There you go. That's Eva Simmons.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's.
They brought him from the dead. They brought him up from the dead. They resurrected their club and they've resurrected. Fucking hell! Look at that.
There you go.
My goodness.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah. So there's that. Let's see. Our boil stuff. We did
Morgan.
That.
Hello.
Morgan. Look at that.
Yeah. Bilal, who's he's been sublime this season. He loves his guides. He loves his guys.
Loves his guys. Look at that. Hercules, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a very nice occasion for him, and good luck to him. Honestly, good luck to him. There's the announcement that Van has signed a new contract, which I'm very thrilled for because you know he's been outstanding since joining the club, and as you can see from the comments, he's very well respected. And yeah, good luck to the lad. Good luck to him.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing we haven't mentioned, which we should, which is a great bit of news, is in the Agritas Karmiotis game, which we didn't show any highlights for because there wasn't any goals. There wasn't actually anything to talk about.
Nothing.
Even like referee decisions or anything like that. It's because we actually had some referees that knew what the hell they were supposed to be doing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
To the point.
To the point where we actually received a message from the on Instagram from the Agritas team to say they did do an amazing job, and that's because most of the refereeing team were women at the game.
Yeah, that is correct.
So that was the referee, the two lines people. I was going to say linesmen, the two lines people. And there was also the VAR official. So all four of these people kind of I wouldn't say made their debut, but kind of filled the refereeing team and did a fantastic job.
Absolutely. I agree. And you know what,
Go on.
No, to make it even better, we put this out on Twitter. As you can see, we got over 9,000 views and we tagged women in football. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So, yes, we're trying to help. They've got 4,000 views as well. And also a friend of mine, Chris, who has done some phenomenal work in the background, especially for the LGBT Spurs fans, working as a trustee for Kick It Out. She liked it as well. So, yeah, it looks like we've got some positivity. I should say more positivity.
So Cyprus FA is obviously investing in foreign referees. Well, I think they're going on about it all wrong because obviously, even with foreign referees, you hear complaints all the time by all the teams. Whereas no complaints for this refereeing team. So there's a lesson to be learned there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Number one, a woman is always right. Number two, if she's ever wrong, go back to rule number one. I'm just saying.
Well, we've got, obviously, there is a skill set for people to be involved in refereeing in Cyprus, and they seem to have just concentrated on 50% of the population. The fact that it's taken so long to bring female officials into the game in Cyprus, in general, but also in Cyprus is I think a bit of a travesty. So yes, get on it. What else? I wanted to start a rumor. Phil Jones is signing for Buffalo. Being released from Manchester United. We'll do. Clip it. Phil Jones is signing for Buffalo.
I don't think anyone would want to do that. I don't think you'd want to do that. Well, there's something that I need to mention because we put it out there. Well, I spoke to you about this, and we put it out on No Choftas this morning about a rumor linking a former Man United player to Omonia, and there you go. Super Sport FM have picked up on it. Davide Petrucci. There you go. So hopefully this has legs. I'm hoping anyway. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into it. Davide Petrucci, who played in United's academy with Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard, and hopefully he'll be coming to Omonia. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into that.
Okay, so one more
Allow
thing.
it, bruv. Yeah, go on.
One more thing. It's the big one.
The
big one involving Cyprus Parliament, government, all that business.
Come on, baby.
Raids. They're gonna do a fucking raid on the Cyprus FA. God bloody wait. I want them all. I want them all going down. I want that turtle head to go down. I want him out. Match fixing. So, an old member of the Committee of Ethics and Safeguarding in Sport called Haris Savidis went out and did the testimony to Cyprus Parliament, following obviously the whole thing with the podcast, that Baba Haralambous. Baba Haralambous saying that Anastasiadis asked him to not look at a friendly between Apollon and Karmiotissa. So obviously this got brought into Parliament, and now they're having a big old discussion about it. So Haris Savidis went into Parliament and gave his speech. He's also been giving a lot of statements to the press, and I've got a nice quote here. So, the topic of the meeting was the possible political interventions due to the statements of Baba Haralambous, who's the former president of the ethics committee.
For some reason, I've got Stevie Wonder song "Very Superstitious" stuck in my head as you're singing, as you're talking or singing. Well, you could be singing it.
Well, I'll get through it and we'll see. All former and current members of the committee were invited. We had to start things over. Reasonable questions were raised. We were asked about the Karmiotissa Apollon match. We were asked if we received interference or suggestions, so to speak, from political figures. What I presented was the Red Alerts platform where Interpol and UEFA participate. On September the 23rd, we received an email from UEFA, which was about a comprehensive report from the 1st of January 2019 and until 2020 regarding matches of the two teams, Karmiotissa and Hermes, and they entered the Red Alert on a permanent basis. So those two teams have been put on Red Alert on a permanent basis. And friendlies were part of that. So when we got the suggestion, we wondered how it is possible that there are so many red alerts for these teams. and that the Cyprus FA regulation that provides for punishments and expulsion was not applied. So this is 11 red envelopes for Karmiotis and Hermes for friendly. Expulsion is after 4 or 5. I can't remember the exact rule. But anyway, the issue of the red envelopes themselves wasn't a struggle, but when we went to the Cyprus FA, we went and they told us that they didn't receive any files and that they were very proud that they hadn't. The meeting was in October 2020. There we realized something was wrong and that we had to be very careful with the FA. What was happening automatically made us very suspicious of the FA. And while we were building a case, we also received a phone call from UEFA. And when the time comes, I will tell you who it was who rang. After yesterday's statement that an investigation into the FA is starting and I've been called to provide testimony, then I will tell who called me. The phone call had taken me by surprise and was untimely. They called to complain because we made an announcement that a red envelope had arrived. They told us that they received complaints from the FA, and that's when I realized that something was going on. I don't know if Papa Haralampos or Anastasiadis were called, but I never received an intervention from anyone. Now, here's the thing here, right? The email that he received from UEFA was by accident. It wasn't supposed to be sent to him about the red envelopes involving Karmiotis and Hermes. So he received it by accident and started actioning it. And that's part of why whoever rang him at UEFA wasn't very happy.
You could just imagine. You can just imagine. You could just imagine the guy at UEFA picking up the phone. He goes, "A guy opens the door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No, I am the one who knocks." Oh, God Almighty!
Either way,
beautiful.
Either way, right? Old Turtlehead is going to have some problems. He's going to have some problems. Our friend Gumas. So there's going to be Cyprus FA elections coming up as well in a couple of weeks. And as announced a couple of hours before we started recording, some news that was kind of broken to us a while back. But the BAIC chairman has thrown his hat into the ring.
That is true. That is
but
true.
Said,
I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get it.
So it's between the two of them. Now, do we go for the guy that is unpopular with absolutely everybody? Or do we go with, I won't say fresh face because he's been chairman before.
Yeah.
But it was, 8 years ago? Something like that? Anyway.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, they say a week is a long time in football, and we always say this when it comes to the Borathlima and Cypriot football in general. A day seems like an eternity, honestly. And I do the radio show for BFBS on a Thursday, and it goes out on the Friday. And within those 24 hours, I pray that nothing happens. So it doesn't go out of date because it's frightening. I mean, I did the show last week. It was 15 minutes and he had to cut it down to 5, bless him, because so much had happened. And
I mean, yeah, most of the stuff that I've spoken about all got released today.
Yeah. Yeah.
The match fixing's been sat there for like 4 or 5 days, but the rest of that it's been today. Just bam, 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 bam. And it's going to happen again tomorrow because tomorrow's the 31st. So everybody's contracts are expiring.
Exactly. Exactly. So this time tomorrow, guys, as you're watching this pod, you've probably seen about 15 players released from their contracts.
Yeah.
Managers probably leaving. It's an exciting time of the season, but for us doing a podcast, we thought that maybe we could have a few weeks off just because it's really quiet. But it's not going to be like that. But on the plus side, we've got a lot of good interviews planned, especially for this week and next. We're just trying to get confirmation of a few. One of them, I don't know if you saw the Instagram DM Thassos earlier, but one lad who, so that's going to be a good one for us. So we've got lots planned. So just stay tuned, because with Cypriot football, it never ends. I mean, this particular episode is called "And That's a Wrap." I mean, for the season in terms of the football on the field, but off it,
it never ends.
Never ending story.
It never ends.
Right, is there anything else that we need to step on? We've done an hour and 45 minutes.
No, man, I've stood on as much as I want now. I'm going to put the Legos away.
Okay. Well, that's it for another edition. And thank you to Ben Dinnery for tuning in. His link and his Instagram, what kind of shit, Twitter is in the description. I don't know why I'm doing this. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, it's down there. Scroll down.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram and Twitter at This Is Mappa.
And Facebook.
At Flares Cafes. And Facebook. We have a Facebook group page. We have a Discord as well. All the information is in the description. Don't forget to hit that like button, because it helps us big time. Share it with your mates. As I said, we've got lots more content. We're going to get lots more guests, people that follow Cypriot football, people that are from abroad that follow Cypriot football. We have got big plans for this pod, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching a transfer roundup show. I don't know if you're going to be available for it, Thassos, but let's just fucking play it by ear at the moment, because there's too much going on in life, and we need a little bit of a breather. But fuck it, we're just going to keep going and going and going, and perhaps there might be 2 or 3 days without any news. You never know. But yeah, that's it from us. So until next time, boys and girls, thank you very much, and we'll see you very, very soon.